In 5, 4, 3, 2. Nobody gonna do the iCarly theme song?
I
know.
was gonna say you almost lined that up perfectly with the intro again.
Thank you.
I was like, I thought you were gonna pause for one and somehow wait till the letters explode outwards, but then I realized you don't see the letters. I'm the only one that
No,
does.
I cannot see it. I'm literally just winging it here.
Welcome back, CastPod, episode number 19.
Bold play, trying to remember how many episodes we've recorded on the fly.
19. That is a 1 and a 9. I'm your host, Kevin, with my lovely co-host,
Kevin.
also Kevin.
Welcome to the Kevin and Kevin show, starring Kevin and me, Kevin.
We got a fun show planned for you tonight. Musical guest, Usher.
Wow, really?
No, we just have a better guest.
Yeah.
He was on the last episode. He's back again because we recorded these back to back because we still had him at the time.
You're ruining the movie magic.
There's no magic.
Oh.
Thomas Jefferson Kelly, everyone.
That is not my middle name, but I will accept that intro.
I like it.
Can't see.
Welcome back, Jeffy.
Thanks. I'm glad to be back. It feels like an eternity of 10 minutes since I've recorded with you guys. So
Yeah,
I'm excited to be back and talk more with you.
And today we got a whole bunch of topics, don't we?
Yes, we do. Calum, start us off with the first one.
So the rise of communism back in the 80s was really just a tough time for us all, I think.
Oh,
yes, okay. All of us millennials aren't born yet.
Sorry. So the real topic we're going to be talking about today is, drum roll, we're going to be talking about books today.
Gosh.
Did that come up in the mic? I flipped some papers.
I heard it.
Definitely heard it.
It was supposed to be like I'm flipping through a script. Cut this part out?
No.
Dang it.
It's too much work for CastPod.
Yeah, you got that right.
Who's ruining the movie magic?
Yeah, well, at my editor.
That's me.
So yeah, we're going to talk about books today because I've talked about it for like 4 different episodes, maybe more. But there was this book that I read one time. Shocking, I know. And I think I read it in elementary school, but it really left a deep impact on me. And I thought we would talk about it today just because it was a wild ride.
What happened to the last episode where you're like, oh, we have a guest on. I don't want to bring up the book.
Well, I said that for this last one. Then you're like, well, you just do it. I was like, all right, well, I guess that's what we're doing.
All right.
So, I mean, do you have something better to talk about?
Nope.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I come prepared. So we're going to talk about books. Well, at least for this one part. This one particular book. Maybe we'll derail and talk about a bunch of other things. Most likely. So, this book, if you haven't heard of it, is called The Thief of Always by Clive Barker. And it was written in 1992.
When Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
That is exactly when Columbus sailed the ocean blue. And it was written for children, but intended to be read by adults as well. I am not reading the Wikipedia page for this. Don't check. So what this book was about
I wasn't going to.
So this book was just insane. I really liked reading it, but also it was kind of mentally scarring because it wasn't just your average child book. It was a horror novel for children, basically. The author of this book, in fact, well, I don't know if I should reveal that yet. Maybe I should talk about the book plot and then talk about the author.
Sure.
So the book goes like this. I'm going to say in my own words and not read it directly off Wikipedia. You have this kid. Enter Harvey Swick, 10 years old, living his life as a typical 10-year-old does. And I think that's why we probably read it in like 5th grade, because we were about the same age. So this was, I guess, kind of to teach us a lesson or whatever, but really just taught me the meaning of fear.
That's an
This
important
kid,
lesson.
I mean, yeah, but like you could have just beat me with a ruler or something. So this kid, he's just trying to live his life as a 10-year-old, but life sucks. You know, he has to do chores, he has to go to school. That's it. That's what 10-year-olds do. And he hated it. He was like, I don't want to do this anymore. But then out of nowhere, this guy shows up and he says, Hey, kid, you want to buy some drugs? Except he doesn't say that. He says, Do you want to live in this special house where you won't have to do any homework or school or drugs? How about it? And he's like, Yeah, all right, I could do that. So he goes to this house, and this house is called the Holiday House. And this place is magical. It's surrounded by fog that like you can't see in or out of. And there's always food ready for you, but it's always like sweets. It's like ice cream and candy and, you know, typical kid stuff. As much as you could possibly want, your favorite stuff is always there. And it goes through the 4 seasons every single day.
Wait,
What?
I think I heard this book actually.
Ah. See? Maybe you did. Well, I was going to say maybe you did read this, but maybe you
No,
were told to read this.
someone read this to me or for me.
Interesting. Well, there you go. Maybe you'll remember more as I go through. So the 4 seasons go through each day. There's Christmas every morning and Halloween every evening, because those are obviously the best 2 holidays that there are. And this house, the like head of the house, is this guy called Mr. Hood, but you never ever see Mr. Hood. He's just kind of this mysterious figure who owns the place. And there are, I think, 2 other kids that are with our main character Harvey, and there's a bunch of people that like work in the house. There's like 4 assistants to Mr. Hood. There's like a cook and a cleaning lady, and there's some cats, I think. But as Harvey is living out his life in the holiday house, you know, things start not to add up. Things are seeming kind of weird, which you would expect from, you know, the 4 seasons happening in one day and infinite candy. But I don't know. Kids, am I right? So he notices that behind the house, there's this kind of shadowy place. It's where Simba's not allowed to go. And he notices that there's a pond. And he's like, well, this is weird. What's back here? So he goes up to the pond. And what he says is that, you know, it's just really murky. You can't really see anything in it. And he's just staring into it, kind of like peering over the edge. And then suddenly he sees it, this shape in the water. And it's a massive fish. It's like a carp, not a magic carp, just like a huge, dark carp staring up at him. And he like jumps back a little bit because this thing is like bigger than him, and it's just sitting right on the edge. It looks like it's just waiting for him to fall in and grab him. And he notices that its eyes are really just like piercing. They look like a human's eyes, but on a gigantic fish. And that freaks him out. So he runs away. And he doesn't let anyone know that he saw these fish in this pond because he thought he would get in trouble. But basically, more weird stuff happens. He starts seeing that all the people that are like working in the house are really kind of creepy. Like the one guy who invited him to the place, his name was Rictus. He always has this huge, kind of like sickeningly wide smile compared to like, you know, the Cheshire Cat or something from Alice in Wonderland. He's really thin. He's like kind of yellowy, and he's got this really creepy aura around him, and so do like all of the other assistants in their own way. So one day, he's talking to his friend, and they notice that one of the other kids that's there has disappeared. They have no idea where she went. And they're like, well, that's not cool. And they start asking around to all the assistants, and they're like, who? Never heard of him. What are you talking about? So they're like, all right, something's definitely up. So they decide to escape with the help of a cat. Because I mentioned there was cats, and this cat's name was Blue Cat, and it helped direct them out of the fog back into the real world. So they made it out, and they're like, well, I guess we just go home now. So they all go home, and they go like their separate ways. The two kids. Harvey goes to his house. He knocks on the door, and this really old couple show up, and they're like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "Who are you? You're in my house." And they're like, "What?" And they realize that that's his parents, but aged like 40 years. And they, realize who each other are, and they're like, "Oh my God, where have you been? Why have you not aged like at all?" And he's like, "I don't know. Why have you aged like a lot?" So they start talking about it, and they realize that it must have been something to do with this house. So the parents are trying to figure out where it is. They're calling the cops, trying their best to find it, but they can't. So Harvey goes out and he meets up with his friend, whose name is Wendell, and they start talking. They realize like, oh, we've been gone for like so many years, so we think that all those seasons that were passing into day, we're actually gone a year every single day. And Wendell's a really weird character, I must say. I remember him just being really like annoying. And I have a part here in the Wikipedia that says Wendell tells Harvey that Wendell's mother is old, fat, and divorced. And that's just it. It's like, cool.
Good talk.
Wow.
Yeah, right? Like, wow, all right. No
Sure.
love for the mom. But then they decide they have to go back to the house to figure out how to return things to how they were. So they find their way back in, and they figure out that Mr. Hood is actually a vampire that feeds on the souls of children, and those children that he like eats become fish that he puts in the pond behind the house. So all those massive fish that Harvey saw were actually previous children, and that one that was like staring at him was his friend who disappeared. But they go through and they kind of murder everybody in the house. Literally, like these two 10-year-old kids find a way to just like murder all of the assistants.
Amazing.
And then Mr. Hood. What was it? Yeah, this is how I couldn't remember how they actually finished it, but it says here Harvey defeats Hood by tricking him into using up all of his magic by wishing for as many things as he can think of as fast as he can. Because that was Mr. Hood's thing, is like he would grant the wishes of whatever the children wanted. With his power drained, an exhausted Hood allows Harvey one more wish. Harvey wishes for all the seasons at once, resulting in a furious lightning storm that burns down the house. Hood seems to perish in the fire, but he manages to rebuild a body from the debris of the house, and remarks at Harvey's courage. He contrasts Harvey with Wendell, who has succumbed to the house's lures and wishes to stay forever in a trance. Because I guess Wendell just hated his life that much and his old, fat, divorced mother that he was like, yeah, I'm just going to stay here. Hood then offers Harvey, whom he calls a thief of always. He
Roll
said it.
credits.
He said the title of the book. Roll credits. The chance to become a vampire with him and be immortal. Harvey refuses, and the confrontation ends with Hood being sucked into the lake, which has turned into a whirlpool. The children all leave the remains of the house and go back to their respective times. And that is The Thief of Always.
Wow, that's a very interesting premise.
Yeah.
I
So that was
remember.
terrifying to read as a child.
I remember the fact that all the seasons happened in a day. Like that's
Yes.
when the realization came.
Mhm.
That's it. Everything
Yeah.
you said afterwards, nope, not a clue.
Well, the other thing I remember that they don't mention in the Wikipedia article is I think Rictus, like when the whole like battle's going down, he turns like straight up into a demon. Like he grows like bat wings and like big pointy teeth and like chases all the kids around the house. It might be a different character. I'm pretty sure it's Rictus. But each one of the like assistants I have here listed have their own like their name means and like what they do in the book has like a connection. So it says here, Rictus, one of the 4 servants of Hoods. He is not very tall. He wears gentleman clothes, tall brim hat, wears spectacles. He's very thin, yellowish skin, like I said, and a grin that can stretch wider than any grin. And his name, Rictus, means a fixed grimace or grin.
Huh.
Jive is another guy who did a lot of jazz. Just kidding. It says Jive's downfall occurs when he attempts to change Harvey's mind to stay at the holiday house with pie and ice cream, which would have worked on me, but not Harvey. Harvey tricks him by saying that the food isn't real, but Jive unwillingly eats both plates of pie and ice cream, which causes him to fall down and crawl on the stairs as he spews dirt and dust out of his mouth, screaming for his master's help, and suddenly turns to a pile of dirt and dust. Jive's name means deceitful or worthless. So like just that line right there is like that's pretty scarring,
Yeah.
you know? Like
It's a little messed up.
yeah. What else? There was a person named Mar who was really fat but she didn't think she was fat. And then Harvey was like, look in a mirror, and then she did, and then she dissolved into a puddle.
Amazing.
This one just says Karna, one of 4 servants of Hood's. Karna's name could be alluding to the word carnivore, which means an animal that feeds on flesh. Karna is not a human. That's it. That's all that she gets out of that.
I'm on that page. Can you read what it says for Clue Cat?
Clue Cat, yes, owned by Mrs. Griffin, who happened to die during lunch from burning alive due to a number of factors.
I want to know what the number of factors are. How do you burn?
Right?
Like, I'm pretty sure the answer is fire. That's how you burn alive.
I don't know. Maybe fell into a can of gasoline and then happened to run through a match factory.
And catch on fire.
Well, yeah. But yeah, so there was a lot of death in this book. There was a lot of really creepy imagery. And it was adapted into a comic in 2005, which I have not seen. It was supposed to be made into an animated musical version in the 1990s by Paramount, but it never happened. They also wanted to make a live action like movie by 20th Century Fox, which also did not happen. But interesting facts about this book is that the author has quite the resume. Clive Barker. Let's see. There we go. So he has written a lot of books. He's made a lot of movies, and all of them pretty much are horror related. One specifically that is probably common knowledge to a lot of people listening would be the Hellraiser series. Are you familiar with that?
Really?
Yeah. So the same guy who made
Interesting.
those movies, as well as several other very scary sounding movies and shows and whatever, wrote that book for children. And they gave it to us in elementary school to read. So, yeah.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, if I can go on a tangent here for
yeah.
a hot second.
Please.
I've talked a lot.
Please go on a tangent. Is it about books, Tom?
It is. It actually relates to.
Kevin,
don't worry, I'll make it quick. I also had an experience like that over the summer between graduating from like elementary school and going to middle school.
Mm-hmm.
We were given a book to read called Things Fall Apart, which basically. Have you read it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, so that was fun.
Yeah.
So for anybody who doesn't know, it basically follows the story of this like this I guess you would call him like a tribal leader in like Africa, right?
Okonkwo the cat.
Oh my gosh, why do you know so much about this?
Because we actually like, if you say this to Joe, he will go off.
Really?
Really?
He used to love Okonkwo.
Oh yes, I remember that.
Yeah,
So
see?
basically, like this book focuses on the trials of this guy and like how he adapts to changes in his within his tribe and things like power dynamics and who's in charge and elders and all this sort of stuff. But there's also a lot of like basically rape and murder in it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and up until that point, I had never heard of that. I mean, I knew what rape was, but I never had it so gruesomely described to me. Um,
I
and
have
it
a
was
segue for
interesting.
that, but yeah.
What'd you say?
I said I have a segue for that actually.
Oh, did you? Oh, I'm glad you have a segue for descriptive rape.
You're welcome.
But it was horrible, and I literally like, I think in my like reading response that I wrote for the school was like, what this book should not have been like recommended to us, and like I'm not a stranger to adversity in these books. Like in tandem with that book, I also read another book which was also screwed up, but not as bad, called Chinese Cinderella. Um, a book where basically sort of a Cinderella story, but following this young Chinese girl, and she's kind of in an abusive relationship with her family. Like her siblings bully her, her father is very mean to her. Never like abusing her physically, but like there's some pretty messed up stuff. Like they trick her into drinking her own pee. They feed her pet duckling to the family dog. Like it's some pretty messed up stuff,
Oh
but
my
there's no
god.
like outright rape in it.
Right, yeah.
So I was like, okay, this is like a good, and it was an interesting book, and I'm like, okay, this is a good way to explain hardship and struggle without also scarring everybody. Like,
Yeah, that you read Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe, by the way. Um at a pretty young age, because we read that in 11th grade, like
oh yeah,
junior year of high
I was
school.
Speak for
young when
yourself.
I read this.
Yeah, so that's kind of wild. Because
Yeah.
I remember reading Things Fall Apart, and I also was like, wow, that's kind of wild. But it wasn't like, you
Well,
know,
you were also like, I'm sure if I read it now, I probably am over exaggerating it in my head from how impressionable I was as a child
no,
because
but yeah, you
I
were
haven't
you
seen
were
it since.
young.
But I've seen documentaries about like murdering psychopaths and all this other stuff that it's jaded my viewpoints. So
Yeah,
like as a first introduction to that sort of stuff, like abuse and rape, like it was pretty
mhm,
rough.
yeah, because it is about like this head of the tribe who, and at the end of the book, like, because it is just like multiple wives and fighting people and killing people. And then, spoilers if anyone wants to read this book, but at the end of the book, it goes into colonization of Africa. Because the white man like shows up in his village and starts teaching them about Christianity, and they're building churches. And Okonkwo's like, "What the heck is all this? None of this makes sense. This isn't like our traditions." And then he kills himself.
Yep, that's the way it ends,
Yeah,
and that was an interesting day for me when I finished that book.
yeah. So it's like there were no really positive messages in that book. It was just like, hey,
Nope. That's like
life is
I
hard.
really thought they were gonna have some sort of epilogue or something, but he
No.
just kills himself after raping all these women, and then that's it. I'm like,
Yep,
okay, that's it. Like,
that was it.
and
You know,
like I don't know what I was supposed to learn from that.
uh, I think it was literally just to be like, yeah, we really messed up Africa.
I guess, but like that wasn't even the focus of the
No, it
book.
wasn't.
Like
That was
it
like right
came
at
in
the
at the
end.
end, but like by that point,
Yeah,
the book had made you hate the main character so much from all the crap he was doing that it's like,
yeah, that's true.
I think it would have been much more stark if they had like if they talked about it as like a peaceful village and then like had the colonization take place and that was the major conflict.
That's true. I mean,
But I don't know.
we read another book alongside that one, because I think we were doing like books about different parts of the world.
Mhm.
So we read another one that was about Africa, but it was slightly more modern. But it was from the perspective of a white family living in South Africa during like apartheid.
Mm.
That was called God, it has the stupidest name. Um, Don't Let's Go to the Dogs Tonight. That's what it was called,
That is a stupid name.
right? Like too
It's
many.
like a double negative that you text somebody when you're trying to get them to agree to something they don't want to do.
Yeah, you're just like, what does that mean?
I would like to just point out
Don't
I'm
not
taking a
come and hang out
BuzzFeed
today.
quiz right now, and I'm finding out what percent mermaid I am, and I chose my animal companion to be a sea lion. Continue.
Thank you. This has been a note from Kevin on his podcast.
Just like
This
to
has been
contribute a
Kevin's
little bit.
Corner.
Yeah, that's fair. I will make one last segue. In that there was another book that was also scarring to me. Well, not that scarring because I read it when I was older, but I learned about it at a very, very young age, and it made no sense to me. And it's called The Kite Runner. It's a pretty
Oh,
popular
that
book.
one I remember.
Yeah, yeah. So, a lot of stuff happens in that book. It takes place in the Middle East, I believe Afghanistan. I might be wrong.
It's either Afghanistan or Pakistan.
Yeah. And it's basically just about like kids living their lives in a really war-torn country.
Mm-hmm.
And this kid likes kites. He's called the kite runner because like they send up a kite and then when it like falls, they run and go get it or something like that. I'm forgetting a lot of the plot, but there's basically one part that like really stuck out to me, and that was that the kid who the story was about gets bullied a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and the way that the bullies bully him was something that I had never heard of before. What they did was they would have sex with him, like forcefully. Yeah. So they would, they'd literally like back him into an alleyway and put it in his butt. And
Whoa,
yeah,
that's really
and
bad.
I was told about that in elementary school because my mom was reading the book at the time, and she was like explaining it to me, but like kind of trying to avoid the bad parts. But I was, questioning everything. So she was like, "Yeah, they're bullying him. Like, we like how so?" And then they're like, "Why? Yeah, they just making him like do stuff he doesn't want to do." And I'm like what? And she just kept asking until she was like, "All right, here it goes." And then she told me that, and I was like, "What?" I had to be like 8 or something. And they're like,
Yikes!
"He put what in where?"
You learned.
What? Yeah, that was my introduction to rape and homosexuality.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I was like, "Wow, that doesn't make any sense at all." Because I was like, "Why would he? What? There's so many other ways you can bully somebody. What's the point of that?" It's like, why did they just punch him or like make fun of his face? That's so weird.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I am
But yeah, I remember learning
80%
about that.
mermaid.
That's a lot of mermaid.
Yes.
That's a lot more than I thought you would be.
Fudge you, Tom.
No, I just feel like you have a much more land-based personality. I feel like you'd definitely be an earthbender.
Okay. I was like, what?
Like I don't know. Like I don't know. I don't know.
That is
Just feeling
Afghanistan.
I would like to go back a little bit when Calum was talking about reading books in
Sure.
junior year of high school.
Mm-hmm.
So Calum, you were in the honors class, right?
I was.
Yeah, I had so to prove the reading difference between me and Calum. Calum's in the honors class. He probably got an A, I'm guessing.
Probably.
I
I mean, I
was
don't know. It was English, and that was my worst subject, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
I was in a class with people that had learning disabilities and special needs, and I was struggling to pass.
Mm-hmm,
So yeah, there's the difference. And we went to the same college.
That's true. This is true. Although I did get more financial compensation for it.
Yeah.
So, just to add that little caveat in there that my effort was worth something. I didn't read books about butt stuff for nothing. All right.
Oh no, I shouldn't. I'm not laughing because it's funny, because it's not. It's just
Yeah.
it's like I know the struggle.
Tell me about it. My childhood.
No, not like that. Oh man, I walked into that one, didn't I?
Also, I don't know if you noticed, but in the Discord that you're currently in, I have a picture of the cover of the book of The Thief of Always.
Been looking
Yeah.
at it. It's very interesting.
Yep, that's a.
Thought at first it was a snake with like the back of the staircase being its like pattern on its
Mhm.
back, but now I'm realizing it's just an evil face in like the trees before the house.
Yep,
That's pretty cool.
it is. I would recommend it to anybody. I would recommend any of these books to anybody who wants to read books.
I
You have time.
wouldn't. I would recommend things fall apart to people who are at least in high school. Definitely not below that.
That is entirely fair.
Very
I mean,
interesting.
reading books in school sucked. Not gonna lie.
Oh yeah.
But I did actually
Honest,
enjoy a few of them.
yeah, like I enjoyed a lot of the books I read in high school. Like,
Yeah,
and I think
yeah.
that might have been because I was more mature, but like, Of Mice and Men, really interesting to me. Hamlet, like all the Macbeth, all the like Shakespeare stuff was like, yeah, it was like annoying to read it because of how fancy the language was, but it was interesting.
No, I did. I liked reading Shakespeare stuff. And I agree that high school definitely was better because I was more like interested in that kind of stuff. While elementary school, unless it was The Thief of Always, I wasn't really interested. Like I didn't.
Yeah, for
I
elementary, that'd
know
be an adventure.
like half the books I didn't read all the way through. Probably more than half. Um, like I started to read it, and then the readings just kept coming, and I wasn't reading, and like I just spark notes it up. Um,
My anxiety about school kept me from doing that, but I wish I could have. So
I mean, I felt
there's
bad
that.
because like I tried to keep up with the reading, but sometimes I just didn't feel like reading all that other stuff. Because actually, I would be reading other books. Probably, I read a lot as a child, but it's books that I wanted to read, not what the school wanted me to read.
My
Yeah.
favorite
The
books as a
man's
kid
keeping
were
you
like,
down.
and I think I talked about this with Dan on his podcast D4 in Theory really quickly, but some of the books that I used to read instead of the books I was supposed to be reading were like the National Geographic photo fact books about animals. Those are
Oh
so
yeah,
cool.
I mean, exactly. I was reading, you know, the Animal Encyclopedia and like stuff like that.
It was
Um,
so sick.
it was so much more interesting. But I remember like I'm trying to think back to elementary school books, like Call of the Wild, the new Harrison Ford movie. I know we read that at some point.
Oh, that's the one with the dog, right?
I think
Yeah.
so.
I got confused. I thought it was where the wild things are. I'm like, nope, that's
No,
different.
that's not. I
It's
definitely read
very
that as
different.
well, but no.
One book that I read in middle school that I really liked was The Outsiders. That was a really cool one. I don't
I
know if
think that
either
was
of you
like
have read it.
an overall crowd favorite.
I
Yeah, it was
know.
really good.
So Kevin and I's middle school was split up into two like sections,
Yeah.
A and B. And I know that whatever section I was in that year, the other section read that book because everybody. That's the one with Pony Boy, right?
Yeah. Stagel
Yeah.
and Pony Boy.
I just know that everybody kept saying that one line, and I'm like, I have no idea what that means.
I think we. You know who's in my class actually? I believe Dan.
Dan, host of D4 in Theory. Check it out.
Tom was a recent guest on it, I believe, at the time of this released.
That's true. All three of us have been guests on that podcast.
Hmm.
Yeah, by the time,
This
this
is
episode of this will
yeah,
probably come out in like, what, 2 weeks, something like that.
something
So
like
the
that.
one from D4 in Theory my episode will be up. So
Yep.
Yeah, so check that out. Check all of our
You
episodes
get
out.
to hear me talk about how much I hate myself. Calum talk about how cool he is, and I don't know what Tom talks about.
We'll have to find
kind of a mix of those two.
the perfect combination.
Like the Powerpuff Girls intro, like where it's like, a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of professional development, but then the professor added something unintentional, stuttering,
Height.
and it's like, oh, there it is.
Giantism.
Oh no.
The perfect human.
So
Yeah, sure.
I thought I was gonna bring this up last time,
Okay.
but Tom, we recently did a Zoom call with a bunch of friends from college, correct?
Yes, we did. Sorry, I my mic cut out for like a split second. I answered and then nobody said anything. I'm like, okay, so obviously I didn't come through.
Just so much silence.
It's like, no, answer it yourself, Kevin. You have all the answers. No, yes, we did do a Zoom call with a whole bunch of friends from college recently.
And what did we do, Tom?
So
Oh, I pulled a hammy.
we did something called a tier list. Um, and for those who don't know, a tier list is basically a way of organizing things often used when talking about gaming as a way of ranking characters in a game from best to worst. So if you ever are talking to somebody who's really into gaming, they say, I play a top tier character, that means they play a character that is programmed to be very good compared to everybody else. So there's a tier list maker online where you can make tier lists for pretty much anything. So the one that we got, I think the most heated about was cereals. So there was like a list of all the cereals,
That
right?
was
And like
nuts.
all the variations of them. So like, the Fruit Loops, and you got the Fruit Loops with marshmallows, you got Captain Crunch, but you got peanut butter crunch too. And you got, Oops All Berries. And, like it was just, there was all the
Sorry,
different
remind me
variations.
of a funny meme specifically about that. I can't
So
remember
What,
what
Oops All Berries?
it was. Just oops all, and then something really stupid.
so to go off of that, Tom, did you know that about, I would say, a couple of weeks ago, Calum and I came up with an idea to rank
Mm,
things for
really?
CastPod. Yes, we did. So we actually just recorded it, and it should be coming out soonly after this episode comes out because I'm gonna keep forgetting to upload it. Um, but we ranked all of Class 1A in My Hero Academia for CastPod Ranks first couple of episodes.
That's true. We did do that.
And I want to get you on an episode specifically based around Pokemon. I feel like it's gonna go nuts.
Oh, I mean, if anything about Pokemon with us three is going to go crazy for sure.
Yes.
But we have some very differing opinions and some very stark opinions that we all agree on, so it'll definitely be a
Yep.
fun time.
Like we all agree that Charizard is trash.
See, this is we're doing a perfect example of disagreements, but we'll leave that for the episode. But yeah, I'm definitely interested to rank some Pokemon with you guys because
yeah.
I feel like that's when we get our most. Well, at least for me, that's when I get the most into
Passionate.
like debating is when it's something like that.
Oh yeah. So I have that already planned out.
Cool.
Just saw what Calum
Interesting.
posted in the Knuckles. The Discord. So yeah, CastPod ranked new series by CastPod. And you get to see me and Calum do what we do best, and that's judge things.
And you can actually see us.
Yes, we actually have face cam for that one.
I know.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we'll put in a little bit more work.
As time goes
Yeah.
on.
Than what we do.
It's a smidge more work.
Well, yeah, let me know and I'd be happy to be on.
Awesome. And then also that kind of goes into, we started talking about it accidentally once, and it became an idea for a video that I want to definitely like super hardcore produce when quarantine is over. And that's us. So we all are wildlife conservation majors. And did we all take like mammalogy and herpetology?
Yep. Are we gonna rank animals?
That is a plan, actually. I want to do like a ridiculous animal ranking thing, where I'm just gonna Google random animals and see what happens. But for us to redo the entire taxonomy of Pokemon.
Oh yeah.
Mm. And I know that that's been done before, but it'll definitely, I think us all being wildlife majors and having that background will definitely put a unique spin on it.
Yeah, we can do it better.
So look for that.
All right, I
in
wasn't gonna outright say it, Calum,
2
but
to
I'm
3
glad you
years.
did.
We're better than them.
Yep. So the only requirements for that, at least from us as of right now, is that we all need to wear lab coats. And we're going to have Pokemon Tree Professor names. I nominated myself to become Professor Cactus. I believe I also nominated Tom to become Professor Redwood.
Also a good one.
And I don't have one for Cal.
You
Professor
could be
Devaney.
Professor Acacia, like an acacia tree in Africa.
I mean, that's good. But I voted myself when Kevin asked me this. Professor Monkey Tree.
I support that notion.
Would be Monkey Tree if I
Yep.
could. Actually, I'd be Professor Palm if I could, but being Professor Redwood makes more sense.
Professor Palm's also
That's
pretty,
a good one.
Pretty on brand, I'd say.
Yeah. So yeah.
Well, we'll figure it out.
The plan is for me to use my government check to buy some lab coats and some spray paint, so I can spray paint the CastPod logo on the back of it, and then we can get really scientific with it.
I'm definitely down for that. So keep your eye out, listeners.
For the near future, so the next 2 to 5 years.
True. Wait, are we
That's
uploading?
some dedicated listeners.
Are we uploading ranked to the CastPod channel or the CastPod gaming channel?
I would say the CastPod channel, because it's technically not like we're not playing games in it.
That's fair. That's what I assumed, but I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. And then also, we meant to bring this up last time, but before we have to slowly close the show as we always do.
Yes.
CastPod got its first ever fan art, also known as Fart. And it was done by none other than Thomas Jefferson Kelly.
Hey, that's me.
Put it up on the screen.
No, I didn't have it ready to put on the screen. I'll tweet them out after this episode comes out. Somebody remind me to tweet them out after this episode comes out.
Nobody will, but don't worry.
You're probably not wrong.
True.
So Tom asked us a little bit ago, everyone in our college friends group chat, what would our team of 6 Pokemon be? And we all answered, and then nobody questioned it for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think the most questioning that happened during that was when I questioned Tom for not admitting what his 6 would be right away.
Which I then promptly gave mine.
Oh yeah, he gave his answer. He's a good guy in that regard. But I was just like, what is going on? So, I have a problem with some of these Pokemon that people picked. Your drawings, Tom, amazing. They're great. But
thank you.
If you chose a legendary to be on your team of 6, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have the biggest culprit of them all. I can tell you from all the submissions I received that Calum does have the most legendaries on his team.
What, with 2?
Yes, everyone else only has 1.
Excuse me.
Aside from me, Kevin, and Logan, who don't have any, and Aaron.
So.
But Diana and Calum has 2. Diana has 1. Kenny Mac and Brandon both have 1. I think Molly has 1, but I can't be. I haven't looked at Molly's in a while.
One?
I don't know. I'll have to relook at it.
Does not.
Okay, so it's literally just Diana, Brandon, Kenny Mac, and Calum. But Calum has 2, where everyone else has 1.
I have a problem with people like Kevin who can't like legendaries. You're saying,
and I will say this before we get into this, that the purpose of the project was not to see who would win. It was more of an appreciation post for you all, and I wanted to capture your personalities in the Pokemon you picked. So while in a situation where it would be fight to the death, I would not condone Calum picking 2 legendaries. It does make sense because the legendaries are very snake and reptilian-like, which are things that Calum enjoys.
Yes, correct. So, Kevin,
Cal.
Mister. How dare you like legendaries? Let me say this: what made you become such a hipster that it's like, oh, you like legendaries? Couldn't be me. Oh, you like the Pokemon that are specifically made to be the coolest and to represent the entire game that you play? How could you possibly enjoy looking at those? Look at me, I'm Kevin. I can only like not any legendaries, not any starters, not any whatever. I have to like Snubble, and I have to like fudging Audino because you can't like
I have
cool Pokemon.
3 starters on my team.
Exactly, so you can't talk
Sorry.
about legendaries.
I can talk about legendaries.
Okay,
Starters occasionally happen in the wild. Legendaries, you see them once. And it's like,
okay.
this Pokemon is so powerful, you need a Master Ball half the time to catch it.
Huh.
Well, that's debatable.
That
If
is
you're
all
good
fair.
enough, you don't need a Master Ball.
It's enough out of you
Boom.
try hard.
Boom, tell him.
Granted, my biggest accomplishment of all time is in the one game I will never delete in my Alpha Sapphire game. I did catch Rayquaza in a quick ball, and I will never delete that game. I've never been able to.
Is it bad that I want to tell him that it's a scripted event and that you have to catch it?
No, you have to catch them. I'm not gonna I'm
Well,
not denying that, but
it is funny though.
I threw a
It
quick ball
is
out
pretty cool.
right away, and I caught him first try.
I used almost entirely quick balls for that game.
I still
Quick balls aside from dusk balls are pretty good. Like
Yeah.
I think dusk balls have the highest rate if you catch them at night. Like that's the highest multiplier.
Right.
But quick balls are really good too. They're like ultra balls in the first round. But like ultra balls if they were at red health. But
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, long story short, I'm still in a process of getting everyone's done,
Yeah.
but
Tom,
it's a process.
do you know how many people you made them for, by any chance?
I have made them for a total of I think 6 at this point because it's you two, then Diana and Aaron, Kenny Mac and Logan. So yes, 6.
Alright, and how
So
many
I've done
people
6 of
total?
them. I still have Molly, Brandon, and myself to do, so 3 more.
So 9 total?
Yes, I believe so.
Alright, because me and Calum have played a couple times on stream Pokemon Showdown
This is true.
and called it CastPod Showdown. So we did talk about the idea of taking all of the teams and presetting the teams and having a fight to the death.
That could be
Like
fun.
a round robin tournament of who wins. And here's the real question though. I'm a trash Pokemon player. I will not deny that at all. Do we have Tom sub in for me? Because he knows how to battle?
Nope. You have to defend the team that you have chosen.
No, I'm not saying no, like I'm not saying not pick my team. But like
Nope.
having
You pick
someone
them. You fight with them. Those are your Pokemon. You own
No.
them. You must show us how they are so much better than legendaries.
Okay.
Please,
I will.
with your own abilities.
But what about with like people like Logan's team and Kenny Mac's team? Like
What about them?
to do a full tournament to see who out of the pictures that Tom drew has the best team.
Right.
So like
What about
who would battle for them? Because
they would.
oh, okay.
Duh.
Yeah, I mean Pokemon Showdown is pretty easy to set up.
Yeah.
You don't need like a Steam account or anything.
That's true.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking in terms of, do you think we could get Logan to actually play games?
Oh yeah.
And then Kenny Mac to actually play games.
Oh yeah.
Mac is a more difficult convince. I think probably Kenny Mac is the hardest one to convince to do it.
I would say Brandon's the hardest one to get a hold of, though.
Yeah, but he's always down to play Showdown if he's available, though.
Yeah. And then the real question is, do we really want to play with Diana?
No. Cancel.
I think we deserve to give her a shot.
Oh, come on.
Calum, you want to wear? Should we both wear blazers and do commentary on it for when it's not us
I think we
competing?
have to, yeah.
All right, sweet.
And it's funny because we're talking about Calum's team, like it's such overpowered nonsense, but like there's also 2 first form starters on his team.
Yeah.
Like still like Totodile and like Trio.
Exactly.
Like they're not exactly great. Like it's gonna be like we're gonna kill the first 4 of his Pokemon super easily, and then the last 2 are gonna take us so long to kill.
You think you'll get past Rayquaza?
I will
Hilarious.
Here's the
say, I
thing: it
am a
has to
little
be
afraid of Kenny
exactly.
Mac's team.
You're afraid of Kenny Mac's team?
Yeah, that's kind of a just.
It is a pretty stacked team. Like he's got like 2 dragons. He's got Espeon, Lugia,
Salazzle.
Salazzle, which is arguably a pretty good Pokemon, and then
Flygon.
Dragon. Actually, he has 3 dragons because I forgot about Dragonair.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and it has to be exactly how they are in the drawing, which means
What do you
that
mean?
aside from the shiny, no shiny thing, that like Calum can't use Mega Rayquaza because I didn't draw Mega Rayquaza. I drew regular Rayquaza.
This is
Okay,
true.
that's fair. That's fair.
Like, and same goes for Mega Evolutions for starters and Primal Groudon and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
All right, that's fine. We can make Tom the commissioner of this league.
Commissioner Gordon.
And since I've already drawn everybody's like avatars, which I have a feeling aren't as good as the Pokemon behind them, but I can try and make like little splash screens of like verses for each episode if you want.
Ooh.
I will say that Logan did look way too buff at first.
He did. And I realized that after I sent it because I was actually changing it and I was so caught up in trying to finish drawing what was the biggest one he had? Steelix. I got so confused. I got so caught up in making sure Steelix's like body looked all right that I forgot to change Logan's frame from when I used Ganondorf to make the pose. It was like I sent it, I'm like, oh shit. And then like as soon as you said it, I'm like, yeah.
I think you look
He's
great.
looking.
I think he looks good now. I
Oh,
think I changed him accurately.
All right, fellas. It's getting to that time. It's 2:01 in the morning. You know what that means. Tom, pick someone. Me or Cal?
I'm gonna pick Calum because I picked Kevin last time.
Sure.
All right, Calum. Hit us with some words for good old Dingus. What? Dingus
What?
Dictionary. I already confused
There we go.
myself.
What?
Ding Dynasty.
Ding, ding, dong. Let's go with. Are we doing the same thing as before?
I think that worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I think that was pretty spot on. Let's go with. Oh, these words are not difficult. Hang on.
Well, what's not difficult? Last time Wednesday was one of them.
Cat.
Hey, listen. All right. How about you just come? Okay. I'll make it slightly easier this time. Your word, Tom, is. I'm just making sure I have the word set up for Kevin as well. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Your word is knowledgeable.
Knowledgeable. Okay. KNOWLEDGEABLE.
He did it. He got it right. Easy. That wasn't even a challenge for Tom.
It was not.
Well, that's what I like to hear. Now, Kevin.
Hi.
Your word is pharaoh.
Wait, what? Pharaoh? Like
Pharaoh.
Can I have the
An
definition?
Egyptian pharaoh. It is an Egyptian ruler of ancient times.
Yeah, I got this. PHAROAH.
That is incorrect.
Shenanigans.
Shenanigans.
I love how confident he was, and then he got to the R, and he's like, he just-
He was like, wait. Pharaoh is spelled Pharaoh.
This is stupid and an outrage.
You got that right.
now we're tied. We each got one.
Do you
So
see
now we're
what
gonna
I
have to
was
have a
saying?
tiebreaker next time.
Do you see why that Calum gives me clearly different words than you, Tom? It's because this is what happens.
I would have.
Well,
I honestly would not have known how to. I would have made that mistake as well, Kevin, except for the fact that I actually named one of my Pokemon in Pokemon Sword and Shield Pharaoh, and I remember specifically looking it up because I didn't want to misspell it.
Who? What Pokemon?
It was a Sandaconda.
Ah,
hey,
Yeah, well, that's one of Calum's drawings,
that's right.
or one of the Pokemon in Calum's drawing, I should
that
say.
is a
What a
good
great
Pokemon. I like
Pokemon.
that
What a
Pokemon.
solid Pokemon.
It
And
looks.
his ability is super annoying, and I love it.
Yeah, it is.
It's Sandstorm.
It's just so perfect. He's like, ow, take this.
It's like the perfect Calum Pokemon. You hurt him, and he just he's like slowly spits shit at you. It's like,
That's
bleh, you suck. Bleh.
It's perfect. Literally perfect.
It really is.
But yes, Kevin, now it is your turn.
All right.
Yeah.
So, for this real or fake, I've been doing a lot of WWE and a little bit of AEW so far, but I'm gonna go real indie. So, these are people wrestling in basically high school gyms, as big as they get.
Wow.
And they also tend to just go crazy extreme. So there was a match type in a promotion where you can only win by breaking the bone of an opponent.
Holy crap.
Wow.
And so I'm going to give you this answer as like a freebie. It's like, yeah, they would do like fingers and toes and stuff, like that would
Little stuff.
technically count. Like it's not like you have to break the other person's femur or some ribs.
Right.
All right.
I'll let you ask your questions first.
So when was this a thing?
So it was really big in the late 90s and early 2000s when like the Attitude Era of WWE and like it was at war with WCW. That was like the big thing, and everyone's like, how do we be extreme? ECW, which is actually kind of local to our area where it took place. A lot of it was in like Philly and New York. They were known for doing a lot of like bloody matches where it was stood for Extreme Championship Wrestling. And I think Sabu, who's a very big ECW guy, participated in a couple of these matches. But it still happens to this day. It's just not as common.
Interesting. Do you have questions, Tom?
I do. Did you say was this happening in the US, you said?
Yeah, it was happening in the top three places were the U.S. England had quite a few in their promotions out there, and a little bit of Japan, but like a hint of it.
Okay. And like, were there any like lawsuits that got filed over this or anything?
No, so you would have to sign like waivers and stuff beforehand, and it's like the second you hear like a pop, like some dislocations would also count, just kind of being safe. And like I said, it was like fingers, you bend them badly enough in one direction where you wear the metal finger cast for like a week and stuff. It was like just enough to qualify as a break. Of course, for the showmanship behind it, they would build it up to make it look a lot worse, but
Right.
they
Right.
weren't gonna just go like, you have to clearly snap this guy's arm. Although that did happen once. That was kind of bad.
That sounds bad.
Yeah. It was actually
Mm.
it was a very big botch. Um, but I'm not going to get into that because that might give away how real or fake it is.
I'm gonna go ahead and say it's fake.
I am also gonna say it's fake. Final answer.
Are you sure about that, Tom? Even if I tell you about the great botch of 1999, where
Is that the bite of 87?
Is that the bite of 87?
I unironically love game theory in that regard. I love all his Five Nights at Freddy videos, but
Me
so
too.
the great botch of 1999. It was in Liverpool, England. It was who was it? Steve Blackman versus Mick Foley, and he went to kind of pull so like a flying forearm. Steve Blackman did. So he was gonna jump off the top turnbuckle, and he was gonna hit Mick Foley with a flying forearm, and he just kind of missed. We're not sure, like, either Foley was in the wrong spot or Blackman just jumped at the wrong angle. He landed on his forearm, and his hand was kind of like his forearm was clearly snapped. And that was my story behind my fake wrestling match type.
Mm,
I knew it. There
nice.
was no way that they could make a wrestling
Nice.
type where there was literally the qualifying win was breaking people's bones.
I mean,
That would
You'd
be
be
sick though. That's like
surprised.
some Mad Max stuff.
You'd
yeah, if it
be
was like
very surprised.
gladiator times, you know.
Mm-hmm. There actually was. Hold on, let me check. I made a list of just a bunch of them, so that's how I'm easily prepared for it.
Right.
And more importantly, to make sure that I didn't actually duplicate something. But there was a match type that was called an Inferno match, where they would light fire all around the outside of the ring. Like, it was controlled in like a barbecue grill-esque sense, where there was still fire shooting up, but it wasn't like it was out of gas
Wasn't
related things.
spreading.
Yeah. And you only won that match by lighting your opponent on fire.
Wow. See, that I would also think was fake, but that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I also would like to mention that during this entire thing, I've not stopped looking at the "Oops All Knuckles" post that our co-host Calum has graciously put in our Discord chat as we're recording this.
You are welcome.
Were you about to
You
say
And
are
I
our
could
welcome.
only
Discord trash?
imagine Knuckles breaking bones.
Knuckles would break bones, without a doubt.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
right, he would.
All right, Tom, take us away.
All right, I'm gonna do the same thing I did last time, which was stutter awkwardly until one of you take over, because
Nice.
I don't know how to end this podcast because I'm not a co-host.
You're doing great, sweetie.
Oh my god, stop! I will not be condescended by you any longer.
Remember to smile,
No,
sparkle
I mean
fingers.
it was a great time, enjoying recording with you guys. So I'd be happy to come on again in the future. But yeah,
Nice.
Where could people find you, Tom?
well, Kevin, they can find me on Facebook at Thomas Kelly. There's a picture of me standing in front of a big Godzilla movie poster because we've not touched upon this for our listeners yet, but I'm a huge Godzilla fan. So if that ever comes up in a future podcast for any reason, I will be happy to talk about it. But that will how you'll know me. I am very tall and have long hair and glasses. Also on Twitter, you can follow me at Thomas Kelly or at Kaiju Catcher 757. That's KAIJU then the word catcher, like Pokemon catcher or baseball catcher, 757. I haven't gotten it set up too much yet, but by the time this episode comes out, I'm hoping to have a full profile, public, and possibly putting up those drawings I was mentioning earlier, just so people can get a reference for, some of the stuff that's up on Calum and Kevin's Twitch streams and things like that, as well as just some of the art I do for my own personal gain, my own personal. I shouldn't say gain. I don't really get anything from it, but just my own personal
gain.
Yeah, I'm making money. No, I'm not. I'm just doing it. It's kind of a fun thing to do in quarantine, and I've been trying to get back into art for a few years now, and this seems like a good time to do it.
We're happy to help you with your passion projects.
Oh yeah, I mean mooch off of them for your viewers.
Correct.
100%. Have you met us?
I know. I should have signed those pictures, so at least my signature would be on it. But it's
Nope.
fine.
True.
Make profit off of them. Anyway, yeah, it's been great.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know where to find us.
Yes.
Do we link stuff in the description? I actually don't know.
We actually do. I link
Yeah.
a mini description that'll probably say some words or something. And then I put down our Twitch links. I think I started putting up our Twitter link and our merch link.
Well, that's where you can find us.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find us here next week with another episode. May or may not include Tom. We'll see.
Hopefully you remember to record, unlike a couple of weeks ago, where we kind of forgot.
Oh, we were doing stuff. But yeah. So thanks for listening, everybody. Bless your face. Peace out.